So what I'm going to do next is a ricotta. Has anyone ever made ricotta before? Yeah? It's really easy, and I almost feel like a bit of a tricker telling you how to do it, because it's honestly so simple, and once you know how to do it, you'll wish you'd known your whole life. Do people use ricotta? Yeah, it's quite expensive to buy. So you can use, I'm using today the Elgar fresh organic milk. It's unhomogenized. You don't have to use this milk. You can actually just use UHT milk off the shelf, and it works just as well. So usually you'll end up with roughly about half the amount of milk to ricotta, because we lose half of it in the separation process. So we've got 2 lots of 750 mils there. We're going to get this onto the stove, and if I can ask my helper to stir this for me. You do need to constantly stir it. Need it on high, so it. Yep. So we're going to put it on a high heat because it's electric. It'll take a little bit of time to heat up. So what we're going to do is bring that up. Once it hits a rolling boil, so the minute that you see the milk go bloop like that, turn it off or take it off the heat if you're on electric. And then for every litre of milk, you're going to add 65 mils of either vinegar, just plain white vinegar, or lemon juice if you've got access to fresh lemons. I always have vinegar in the cupboard. I usually have lemons too, so I mix it up. There's very little difference. All you're wanting to do is the acid reacts to the proteins in the milk and it causes it to separate. So what we're going to end up with is curds and whey, like Little Miss Muffet ate on her tuffet. But what we're going to do is be able to scoop out the curds, and we'll let them rest for a while, and that will be our beautiful fresh ricotta. Ricotta can be used in all sorts of things, sweet foods, for desserts. I use them in a beautiful coconut pikelets, and the ricotta just adds a really beautiful lightness to that recipe. You can put them inside ravioli. My favourite thing to do with ricotta at the moment is to grate some fresh parmesan into the ricotta and stir it through with a little bit of thyme or other herbs from the garden, and put it in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. And the parmesan melts inside the ricotta, and it's just beautiful to be dipped with fresh bread or crackers. It's a very impressive, very simple way to feed people when they turn up at your house and you've got nothing but a bottle of UHT milk in the cupboard and a bit of crusty old parmesan. So we'll come back to the ricotta. The milk always takes a lot. It feels like you're just about to get there, and then it still doesn't boil, and it still doesn't boil. And of course it's like a watched pot then, so we're ready to add the vinegar. Just 2 stirs. Yep, there it goes. I'll try and get it over here. Thank you. Can you guys see this? Can you see how it started to curdle? Can you see that? Is it coming out on the big screen? If it's not, come up and have a look. It just splits. So you want to add the vinegar, so get it off the heat, add the vinegar, 2 stirs and leave it. And then we're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes before we'll scoop the curds out. It doesn't look very attractive at this stage, but it'll taste absolutely delicious. Okay.
If you used a skinny milk, would you get the same result?
No, you wouldn't. You need to use, I mean, it will work, but it's the fullness and the fat within the milk that helps it to, have the right flavour and perform in the way that we need it to. I'm not a big fan or advocate of skinny anything. I just think have the full stuff but have less of it. So this is quite, can you guys see that? Am I doing it in the wrong direction? This is really great quality milk. It's beautiful and thick and luscious. This is where it gets tricky. Somehow we need to tie all the corners, and then we're going to hang it over the sink. You've got to be very careful at this stage because it's really, really hot. This is why one would have a strainer out of the pan. Yep. So it's when you're making the flatbread, it's worthwhile just to keep wiping the frying pan out because the flour that's left over on top of it will start to burn, and that's what you can smell now. I usually use a UHT milk because where I live in a small country town and I can't get access to beautiful fresh milk like that. So I use the UHT milk, and normally it looks more cottage cheesy than this does, but I always bring it to a rolling boil. A lot of other cheese, when you make it though, like if you're making camembert or feta or halloumi, you won't boil the milk ever. You'll just bring it up to temperature like 80 degrees or 40 degrees. Yeah. Behaves in roughly the similar way, but... Okay, so I'm going to tie this proper and then get it over to the sink. So the sieve definitely is a lot easier, but you can make it work. Now with the whey, before I take it away, I would either give it to my animals once it had cooled down. So cats and dogs really love drinking this stuff. You can drink it yourself if you have an acquired taste for it. It's very good for you, very high in protein. If you don't do that, you can also add it to your plants. My fruit trees really love it. So that's their extra nutrition that they get, and it saves me on fertiliser. So they always get the whey left over from my cheese making. I'm just going to grab it over to the sink. I'm going to just tie it on to the tap. Nice and tight. And hope it stays there. Everyone cross your fingers. Give it a bit of a squeeze. So that seems pretty easy, yeah? Wow, this looks so different. Yeah, it's so different. Yeah. Probably up to 4 days, 4 or 5 days. Well, normally when I make this with UHT milk, normally it's really crumbly. But because this is organic and it's unhomogenised milk, it's got a lot